Hello guys, this is Gopi back with another video. In this video, we are going to discuss about bubble sort. Bubble sort is an easiest algorithm which we will be using to sort an array element. To demonstrate that, I have created a class called bubble sort. In the main method, let me create one array, integer array input equal to, let me try to add a couple of data which is not sorted by the way. So this clearly demonstrated that the data that I have here is not sorted. Now I'm going to use bubble sort algorithm to sort this array in an ascending order. Sort this array. Now before getting started with the implementation of the bubble sort, we must have to understand what is bubble sort. Bubble sort is an algorithm that helps you to sort array elements. Second thing is, bubble sort algorithm can be faster whenever you use that algorithm with the smaller amount of data. In my case, you can see that I have 5 different elements only. So bubble sort could be the faster way of implementing that. If you have a 50 lakh record or 1 lakh record or 50,000 record, then it is not advisable to go for bubble sort because bubble sort is quite slower because the runtime for the bubble sort is n square. That's why it is always recommended to go for some other algorithm whenever you have a large amount of data. Other algorithms, examples are quicksort, medsort, that we will be discussing in our upcoming videos. Bubble sort is helpful whenever you have a very small amount of data. Now let's start implementing the bubble sort. So before getting started with any other implementation, let me go ahead and create a method, public static, and then I'm not going to return anything, so let me mark it as void and then I'll be just using bubble sort. This bubble sort method accepts only one data, that is nothing but your parameter. I just call it as input array. This is going to be integer type. Now we have this bubble sort method. So this bubble sort method clashes with the name of the class. So what I could do is, let me change this method to bubble sort implementation. Now what am I going to do is, since I have access to the input array, I can use that array and then try to sort the element. Now you can see that from this array I am going to use a for loop. We all know how the for loop is working, so I just leave it as it is. Before that, let me try to create one variable called integer n equal to your input array dot length -1, because our array always starts with 0, so I'm using -1. Now we are done with it. Why I have used this n variable? Because we will be using nested loop. So let me try to create one nested loop here. Let me have the loop variable of j, and I don't want to use the length. Instead of length, I'll be using n minus I variable. Let me explain this. So here you can see that I have one outer for loop and then one inner for loop. This inner for loop runs for n times, this many number of times for each time outer loop executes. And that is why we are getting n square as the runtime for the bubble sort. So outer loop execute for n times and then inner loop execute for n times. The problem here is, for each time outer loop execute, inner for loop execute n number of times. So n into n, that is nothing but n square. Now this is fine. Why I need to use n minus I? The I is nothing but your loop variable. That's nothing but your outer loop variable. I'll be using that here so that I don't want to revisit the same element. Now you can have access to both the elements, like a first element and the second element, and just you have to compare that. How will you able to compare? You have to use the operator. So let me use if. What is the input array? The array is nothing but input array square bracket j. Whatever the element that is available at the jth position should be greater than, if it in case the element is greater than, input array square bracket j plus 1. If this is done, then I have to swap the element. Okay. So what I do is, let me try to create one local variable. Usually the naming convention for creating local variable is just the temporary. We are storing the value in the temporary variable. And then what is the input array? Your input array whatever the element that I have in the input array of jth index, that I am storing in the temporary variable. Now I can just copy this, paste it here, equal to this element. Now I have swapped the value of input array j plus 1 index element to input array of jth element. Now whatever the element that is available in this place, that needs to get override by the temp variable value. With this implementation, we are done with the implementation of our bubble sort algorithm. This will sort it. I will re-explain that after executing the program. Before executing the program, we wanted to print what are the element that is available in the array. So let me go ahead and create one more for loop. Okay, you can use a for or for each, that's up to you. I'm using for each. What is the collection? Your input array. From the input array, let me try to print each and every element in the output screen. So we are done with the implementation. Let me press F5 and see how it actually works. Of course, it will not work because the method is not invoked from the main. Okay, and then input. So we are done with the implementation. Let me press F5 from the keyboard and see how it actually behaves in the output screen. So here is the output. You can see that in the console window, I get 1, 23, 25, 34 and 56. The data is ordered in the ascending order. Now what I do is, let me change this alone. Instead of greater than symbol, let me use lesser than symbol. And then press F5 from the keyboard again. Now the output get little bit vary. So here you can see, right, 56, 34, 25, 23 and 1. Now we have sorted the element in the descending order. Now what I do is, let me reiterate the program one more time so that you will have better understanding of it. I have a method bubblesort implementation which accepts only one parameter, that is nothing but your integer array element. Within this, you can see I created one variable integer n which going to contain the size of your array. Since our loop going to start with 0 index, I just take length minus 1. So outer loop and then the inner loop. This is nothing but your bubblesort implementation. Since you have a nested loop implementation, the content going to execute for the loop going to execute for n square time. That is why bubblesort is suitable only to the limited number of elements. If you have a larger amount of elements in an array, then it is not a suitable algorithm to implement for the sorting functionality. For that cases, you can go for either mid sort or the quick sort. That we will be discussing in our upcoming video eventually. After this loop, you can see that I have implemented this swapping logic. So what I'm doing is, whatever that is available at the jth index, I just take that and store in the variable temp. And then whatever that is available in j plus 1 index data, that I take and store in the jth variable, and then doing the vice versa. At last, the swapping functionality is done. This will do only when the array element jth index array element is lesser than jth plus 1 indexed element, because I am ordering the data in a descending order. If you wanted it to be in ascending order, then you have to be in the greater than symbol. If you change the symbol, based on that it will just modify it. So that's all about the bubblesort implementation. In the upcoming video, we will be discussing about quicksort. Till then, bye, take care.